The September 24th, 2018 Troy City Council meeting. We are pleased this evening to have Councilman Baker lead us with the invocation, so if you would please rise for that, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father in heaven, we give you thanks for this day and for the blessings you've given each and every one of us here in Troy and throughout the nation and world. We ask that you continue to bless us, giving us wisdom and guidance as we work through our meeting this evening, representing the citizens of Troy, coming together to make good decisions and having a thoughtful and very focused conversation about the important issues in our city. Please be with those in our city who are in need of help and maybe don't have the strength to ask you themselves. Please guide us and protect us always. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Baker. Troy City Council meeting is now called to order. The roll call, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Here.
Councilmember Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
Councilmember Pennington?
Here. All present. First on the agenda are certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have two this evening. C1 is a proclamation to recognize September 2018 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And I'd like to ask Dr. Kate Gowans, Chief of Pediatric Hematology, Oncology, and Lisa Muma, RNs for Beaumont Pediatric Departments. If they could meet me at the podium, I'd like to present a proclamation.
Good evening, Kate. Thank you for having us.
Get your name.
Perfect.
Let's go with this. Face the audience. Well, it certainly is my honor and privilege to be here this evening to present this proclamation on Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, September 2018, and I'd like to read this. This is a very important message that we need to get out there to the public. Whereas childhood cancer is the #1 cause of death from disease among children. Every day, 43 children in the United States are diagnosed with cancer, and the average age of diagnosis is 6 years old. 1 in 285 children will be diagnosed with cancer before the age of 20, and around the world, 1 child every 2 minutes is diagnosed with cancer. And whereas 1 in every 1,000 18-year-olds in the United States is a survivor of childhood cancer. And that is as a result of overall cure rates that have risen to more than 80% over the past 40 years. Only 4% of federal government cancer research funding goes to childhood cancer research. And whereas lifelong follow-up care is recommended for all childhood cancer survivors due to the possibility of late side effects associated with treatments. And whereas the impact of childhood cancer diagnosis produces multiple challenges to a family, children and their families need and deserve the full support of their communities while undergoing treatment. And whereas, good news, survival rates for pediatric cancers have improved dramatically over the past 50 years. Today, innovative treatments such as proton therapy and molecularly targeted therapy give doctors even more tools to fight and win the battle against childhood cancers. Of course, while working to reduce side effects from these treatments. And whereas proton therapy can be especially beneficial for young cancer patients who are most vulnerable to side effects of traditional radiation therapy. Beaumont Hospital, Royal Oak, is the first hospital in Michigan treating pediatric patients with proton technology. And whereas our community has the opportunity to make a significant impact on the lives of children currently being treated for cancer, childhood cancer survivors, and of course their families. And whereas our residents can take part in a number of activities to raise awareness about pediatric cancers, including purchasing patient-designed t-shirts, placing gold ribbons on trees in front of your homes, attending the Gold Out varsity football game at Troy High, Troy Colts versus Rochester Falcons, and Dine to Donate on September 27th at Granite City on West Big Beaver in Troy. So now therefore be it resolved that the City of Troy Council and the City of Troy hereby proclaims September 2018 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Troy, and joins with Beaumont Children's to honor all childhood cancer survivors for their strength and determination. And be it further resolved that the Troy City Council and the City of Troy applaud the hardworking doctors, nurses, and staff at Beaumont Children's who dedicate their lives caring for children affected with cancer. Presented this 24th day of September 2018, assigned by myself, all members of City Council. We are so proud to make this an Awareness Month in the City of Troy. Thank you for what you do for our community. Thank you. Okay.
I can say thank you. The awareness is only half the battle, and Lisa and I can tell you from a lot of personal experience, and there are many around you who can tell you from personal experience that the community support that these children and families receive is something that surely can't be quantified, and it is so important from their communities, their schools, for them to be fully supported on their journey, which is different for every family and patient, but they all have one thing in common: special children and adolescents and families. We take care of the whole family, and to have the community support behind them is very important to all of us. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Usually Mayor Pro Tem Abraham has this open to the page that I need, but that's okay.
Sorry.
C2 is a proclamation to recognize September 2018 as National Recovery Month, and I'd like to make a presentation to Suzanne Weinert, Communications and Community Outreach Coordinator for Oakland County Community Health Network in Troy. Good evening. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Once again, it's my honor to present a proclamation for National Recovery Month, September 2018, and I'd like to read this into the record. Once again, an important part of our community, for sure. Whereas substance use recovery is important for individual well-being and vitality, as well as for families, communities, and businesses. And whereas opiates were involved in 42,249 deaths in 2016, and opioid overdose deaths were 5 times higher in 2016 than in 1999, I believe. Whereas 1 in 5 teens abuse prescription drugs before the age of 13. Last year, 2,347 Michigan residents died due to an opioid overdose, placing Michigan as the 7th highest number of deaths due to opioid overdose in the nation. That's something to be very proud of. Whereas we will continue to educate and raise awareness of the risks and potential harm associated with prescription drug misuse. We believe everyone facing substance use disorders deserves the benefit of recovery. And whereas Friday, September 21st, 2018 was the 11th annual Oakland County Recovery Month celebration and walk was held at the Oakland Community Health Network's new location in Troy, 5505 Corporate Drive. And whereas stigma and stereotypes associated with substance use disorders often keep people from seeking treatment that could improve their quality of life. Substance use disorders occur when the recurrent use of alcohol and/or drugs causes clinically and functionally significant impairment, such as health problems, disability, and failure to meet major responsibilities at work, school, or home. And whereas substance use disorder recovery is a journey of healing and transformation, enabling people to live in a community of his or her choice while striving to achieve his or her full achievement and potential. And whereas substance use disorder recovery benefits individuals with substance use disorders by focusing on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society, and also enriches the culture of our community. So now therefore be it resolved that the Troy City Council and the City of Troy hereby recognizes September 2018 as National Recovery Month. Be it further resolved that the Troy City Council and City of Troy calls upon our citizens, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our city to increasing awareness and understanding of substance use and the need for appropriate and accessible services to promote their recovery. Presented this 24th day of September 2018, signed again by myself, all members of City Council. Congratulations and thank you for what you do for our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Just again, thank you so much for the proclamation and for the recognition that you provide to Oakland Community Health Network. There are a number of partners. I see a few partners in the audience here with the Troy Coalition that we work with every day to try to help people in recovery, help people to prevent youth from getting involved in substance use disorders. Recovery Month is a national observance that's held every September, and it's a time to celebrate those in recovery. It's a long journey, but they can make it. So we want to celebrate their recovery. Actually, as you just mentioned, we celebrated their recovery last Friday at our new location here in Troy. Thank you all so much for welcoming us to the Troy community. We're so thankful to be in this community. We had over 300 participants come to the recovery celebration at our location last Friday. It was a great celebration. Had a nice long walk down Corporate Drive. Over 300 people walking down Corporate Drive, carrying great signs, letting people know that treatment is effective, recovery is possible, and recovery happens. So we thank you for your support, and as a Troy resident myself, I'm really proud to both live, work, and play in such a great community. So thank you so much.
There are no carryover items this evening or public hearings. So we will move to public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses, and I will call on Alec Peoples, Troy resident, who wishes to speak on H1. Good evening.
Good evening. Mayor Slater, City Council, I wanted to say thank you for devoting so much time to this topic last meeting. Clearly, I understand it's important, but I also understand there are many other issues the city is working on at this time as well. I appreciate the attention taken on this aspect of the city. While off-premise sign prohibition takes a big step towards making the ordinance better, as I mentioned at the last meeting, there are still other aspects that need attention, especially considering what the master plan describes for signage. I just saw in the late submittals that guidelines for Rochester Road are being considered, which is great to hear. Rochester Road especially needs attention. Whether it's through a sign advisory committee or some other process, I hope we will continue to work after tonight to address improvements to the sign ordinance. Thank you again for your time and effort on this issue.
Thank you. That concludes those that have signed up to speak for public comment on items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Next is an opportunity for council or city administration to reply to public comment. Any comments from council, city administration? Next, H1 is a postponed item, Chapter 85 Sign Ordinance Amendments. City administration wish to make a further introduction or a statement this evening?
Mr. Motzny is present and is happy just to provide us an up-to-date as to where we are now.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. On September 10th, we presented a proposed amendment to Chapter 85 based on direction that was given to the City Administration at that meeting. We've made some additional proposed revisions, and I'm going to summarize those. Initially, the revision that is now before City Council has an expanded purpose section. What the revisions do is provide additional justifications for the various provisions of the ordinance, and particular the provisions that we're now proposing. One of the revisions was to provide a definition for an off-premise sign. Another revision was to define the term amortization, which is the term applied to removal of non-conforming signs. There was a typographical error that has been corrected in the revision now before you. A minor revision based on some comments we received applies to the limitations placed on temporary signs. The revision was essentially replacing the word land with the term real property. Another revision from the last proposal is that we've reduced the amortization period for non-conforming signs from 10 years to 8 years. And then another revision is we now added language that would prohibit off-premise signs. The prohibition, though, indicates that it is only applicable to signs that carry a commercial message. The initial proposal that we submitted to City Council actually did still allow off-premise signs in the IB zoning district, but after receiving some feedback, as well as reviewing some of the reasons why we determined it was appropriate to prohibit off-premise signs, we determined that those reasons apply equally to IB property. Therefore, we've added an additional revision that would prohibit off-premise signs in all zoning districts. And that pretty much summarizes the revisions from the last proposed amendment, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Motzny. Any questions from council? Councilman Hamilton?
Thank you so much for your hard work on this and for all the staff. My only question is, so the current electronic billboards, will they be allowed to do off-premise advertising before the 8-year period? Is that grandfathered in?
Yes, the amortization period would apply to the current off-premise advertising. However, they have to immediately comply with the reduction in the relative to the EMS portion of the sign ordinance.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thank you. I know there were many questions submitted from council on this item this evening, so many of those have already been addressed. So thank you for those responses too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City Attorney Bloom.
Mayor, I just wanted to point out that the amendment, the proposal then is as amended on the yellow sheet. So if there is a resolution, then it would be as amended on the yellow sheets.
Correct. Thank you. Council wish to move the resolution to get it on the table for discussion. Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move H1, Chapter 85 Signs Ordinance Amendments as amended on the yellow sheet.
Support.
Who supported that? Oh. Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilman Pennington, that we approve H1, Chapter 85 Sign Ordinance Amendments as printed in the packet as amended. Any discussion on that this evening? Councilwoman Hoderick.
I just want to thank all the residents that have been involved in this discussion, both present here at council and by contacting us, for the constructive dialogue that's gone on this. Also, the Executive Director of Scenic Michigan, Erica Briggs, for reaching out and providing dialogue to help us in this regard, and City Attorney's Office and staff for the hard work. It's been a constructive process to work through, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Just one comment. I recognize that we're in litigation over some of the sign ordinances, so it's difficult to comment on some of those as they're moving through the courts. But it is the city attorney's opinion that this is the best we can do to prevent us from litigation and try to achieve the goals that we're trying to achieve. I would expect. I know there's no guarantees, but I would assume this is what we feel is the best we can do.
I would agree with that, yes.
Also, I know there were 3 targeted areas, personally for me, that we tried to accomplish with this this amendment and the changes to the ordinance. But after the vote on this, I still think there's a need for a sign ordinance advisory committee that needs to take a look from all sides and from all perspectives, and possibly clean up some more of the language that is needed in there. So if there are no further comments, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes, and once again, thanks to staff and everyone that was involved in this long process. I'm sure Mr. Evans is going to get inundated with permit requests starting tomorrow morning. I know you'll be ready. Next, we'll move to regular business. I-1, our board and committee appointments. There are no mayoral appointments this evening, so I would defer to Mayor Pro Tem Abraham for city council appointments.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one appointment to make. It is for the traffic committee for the student position for the term expiring July 31st, 2019, and the appointment is for Marvin Jiang.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, supported by Councilman Pennington, that we appoint Marvin Jiang as the student representative to the traffic committee for the term that expires 7/31/2019. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes. Motion passes, and thank you to Marvin for volunteering to be on that important committee. I-2, Board and Committee nominations. There are no mayoral nominations this evening, so I will defer to Mayor Pro Tem Abraham for a City Council nomination.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one nomination to make. It's for the Parks and Recreation Board, again, another student position, for the term expiring July 31st, 2019, and I would like to nominate or reappoint Colleen Oak for that term.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, supported by Councilwoman Hoderick, that we nominate to the Parks and Recreation Board for the term that ends 7/31/2019. Please pronounce the name again for me.
Colleen Oak.
Colleen Oak. Any discussion on that? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Motion passes. I-3 is a request for closed session. There is no request this evening, so we will move to I-4, the award standard purchasing resolution 8, golf management services. I see Elaine Bowe, our recreation director, coming forward. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm here about golf management services. As you're aware, because of the recession in 2010, the city outsourced many services, including golf management. Billy Casper has been managing both golf courses for the past 8 years, and we've had very positive results. I did receive a lot of feedback from the public. A lot of those emails were included in your agenda packet. In August, we put out an RFP for these services, and it was posted on Mitten. 272 companies were notified, 17 viewed the information. September, 2 proposals were reviewed and interviewed by a committee of 5 staff. And most importantly, we included this year a Troy resident from our Monday night senior golf league, and that went really well. He was happy to participate on the committee. Based on the scoring criteria, the committee unanimously recommends awarding the contract to the highest rated proposer, Billy Casper Golf. The management is requesting authorization to negotiate and enter into an agreement for a 5-year term with 2 5-year renewals. There's members of the committee are here, be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council for staff or anyone that's here representing Billy Casper Golf? I think your documentation was well done, and usually when it's well done, there's not many questions. So thank you for the thorough vetting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would council like to move this resolution, get it on the table for discussion? Councilman Henderson.
Sure, I'd like to move I-4, award standard purchasing resolution 8, golf management services, as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilman Hamilton, that we approve I-4, the award standard purchasing resolution 8, golf management services, as printed in the agenda packet this evening. Discussion? Just a personal note, I think you made a very good choice. I have had the opportunity to play Sylvan Glen and Sanctuary Lakes since Billy Casper has taken over that service, and there's no question they're doing an excellent job, and we thank you for what you do for the city. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Sorry, Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations. Next is the consent agenda. Any council member wish to pull a consent agenda item? I noticed that the city administration pulled J4A. Any other? Councilman Henderson?
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda with the exception of J4A.
Support.
As printed.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as presented, with the exception of J4A, which was pulled by city administration tonight. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion passes. If you're here on a consent agenda item this evening, they've all been approved. Next is memorandums and future agenda, council agenda items. K1A is an announcement for a public hearing. October 8th, 2018 will be the rezoning application file ZJPN 2018-0006, which is the proposed Somerset Park apartments. That will be on the October 8th, 2018 council meeting. Next, public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. I see Aaron Green is signed up to speak on this item. Good evening.
Before I start, may I ask that I have an extension of time to 6 minutes for a slightly longer comment? I know that's an unusual request. I'm asking in advance. And if the answer is no, that's also fine. That's, of course, your discretion.
You know, sometimes it's difficult to do that without hearing what you have to say, and I know this council doesn't want to set precedences if they don't have to. Why don't we try for 3 minutes and let's see what's going, if that's okay?
Sure. Fair enough. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thanks for resetting the clock. I'm Aaron Green, and I approve this message. If I were running for office, that's how my ad would either start or end. Why? In 2002, the late John McCain, Republican, and Russ Feingold, a colleague on the other side of the aisle, succeeded in passing the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, commonly referred to as McCain-Feingold. One provision of this is Stand By Your Ad. It required that all political advertisements on television and radio include that candidate name drop and approval. The goal was to combat the explosion of false, vitriolic, and ad hominem political attack ads, and to actively punish the candidates and organizations who did not comply. And it helped. Once pointed out, those of us who have been around long enough would probably acknowledge that there has been a substantial decrease in televised political attacks, or at least in their brazenness, until recently. I'll return to this. However, the legislation had two glaring omissions: print media and the internet. Right now, in the final push to the election, most of us have started to receive some downright vile mailers. The content is false, the accusations are false, and unlike some negative television ads, there is not even an attempt to cite sources, which is because there are no sources for these claims. When I receive these, even from a candidate whom I might support, I am consistently repulsed. If you can't run on your own merits, if you can't argue against your opponent's actions or beliefs without resorting to lying or fear-mongering, then you have no business in public office. And I will not support you. These sorts of ads are put forth by cowards and, depending on the attack, bigots and or racists. They don't deserve the support of anyone with basic human decency. Let me be very clear, this is not about party, this is about running a clean campaign. During the primaries, during a gubernatorial debate, my preferred candidate went on the attack, even when in this case there was some merit. The very act of attacking another person that they were standing next to was downright disgusting, and it nearly swayed my vote. I've had more personal experience with this sort of thing. You'll all recall there was a bit of a fight over the library millage several years ago. In addition to some very ugly ballot proposal fights, I worked on the campaign to submit that, to pass the millage. And our efforts were stymied by a group that included sending of several mailers that had verifiably false, hyperbolic lies on those mailers, and they were sent to the residents of Troy. This example and others like it are obscene perversions of our democracy and the democratic process, and yet because McCain-Feingold does not cover print materials, these bad actors are able to continue exploiting the loopholes and breed hate and mistrust. The internet's an entire another topic that I do not have time for, but as you've seen in recent years, the ability for social media to breed lie-infested echo chambers is practically boundless.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I believe you've made your point for me anyways. Unless there's consensus from this table, I think you made your point. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Next are council referrals. There are no council referrals this evening. Before that, was there any response by council or city administrator? Councilman Baker.
Just a quick one. Mr. Green, if you would email me your remarks, I'm happy to read what else you wrote. So, thank you.
Any comments from council? Next are council comments. Any comments from council this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
Seeing Nancy Morrison in the audience and hearing the proclamation from earlier this evening, I just wanted to remind folks about the Troy Community Coalition Celebrity Night Dinner. Tickets are on sale for $125, right? October 18th. Nancy, I'm sure, will be very happy to sell you a ticket tonight if you're in the audience. And if you're not, I'm sure you can go onto their website and find out contact information on how you can get those tickets. It is a fantastic cause. Opioid addiction is real. It's worse than alcohol addiction at this point. It is pervasive. It hits all genders, all socioeconomic classes. It's devastating to the community. It's devastating to families. So please support this fantastic organization. Murray Howe is the celebrity that will be featured at this year's dinner. And I think he was a speaker 2 or 3 years ago as well, and he had the room captivated. So I'm sure he'll do that again. So what a better way to spend an evening is to hear a wonderful speaker and to support a fantastic cause.
Well said. Any other council comments? Earlier this evening I said that I thought it was important to look into a sign ordinance advisory committee, and if there's consensus from the table, I think that's an excellent idea. Mr. Miller, if you could just report back to council if there's consensus, your thoughts on that committee and who should be on it, and if council has any interest in providing comments to Mr. Miller, please do so.
Will do.
But personally, for me, I'd like to see a good makeup from all sides participate. So, I know Brent Sabadan had spoken at the last meeting about that, and so if that's a good idea, we'll do that. Thank you. Any other comments from council? Next are reports. Any council member wish to speak on a report that was in the agenda packet this evening? Councilwoman Hoderick.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to draw everyone's attention to the report PO2B on the agenda. It's a memo from Fire Chief David Roberts, which will make you feel good about our safety efforts here in the city of Troy. He references that Fire Chief Bill Nelson had a vision a long time ago that seems to have come to fruition according to this memo. Just in summary, effective Wednesday, September 19th, Alliance Mobile Health Paramedic First Responders will be the first official advanced life support echo units to service Troy, and therefore will now be able to administer advanced life support care to patients without having to wait for a second paramedic or EMT to arrive on scene. Our citizens and visitors will now be offered the highest level of pre-hospital care possible, a vision that started so many years ago with Fire Chief Nelson. With the current response time criteria of 5 minutes or less for priority calls already in place, this will likely be consistently one of the fastest advanced life support care deliveries in Oakland County. So it's another reason to feel good about living, working, and playing in the city of Troy. Thank you to Fire Chief for bringing this to our attention, and especially to Alliance Mobile Health, because it sounds like they pushed real hard to make this a reality. So hats off to Vince, and we really appreciate these efforts. And I just wanted to make sure the community knew that that was tucked into the agenda and the reports. Sometimes these things can be missed. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Hamilton?
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to briefly talk about P2A, which is about the old Taco Bell location on Rochester Road, which I know a lot of people were sick of. I actually had to get a tire repaired next door to that earlier today, so I got a good look at it. And in a few weeks, so the city has purchased it, and in a few weeks it's going to be completely demolished. And I just want to thank the city for the good work on something that's need to have been done for a long time.
Yeah. Your comments on the reports? I don't see that anyone has signed up for comments on items on or not on the agenda from members of the public outside of Troy. There is no closed session this evening, so thank you for coming this evening. We're adjourned.